Welcome to Fit Skin Nurse Podcast. It's Felicity Ward here, a registered nurse and founder of Fit Skin Clinic in Bondi Junction, Australia. If you enjoy the cosmetic industry, business chat and balancing mum life, then this podcast is for you. Formerly the Fit Injector Podcast. Our content is designed for medical professionals for educational purposes. Please follow and like, and for more you can head to my YouTube channel, Instagram and TikTok. Today is episode 29 and I have Samantha and Ashleigh from TX Spa in Victoria with me here today. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming in for a chat.
Thank you.
Ashleigh, you are a nurse practitioner and director at TX Spa in Newtown, Geelong, and Samantha, you are a registered nurse and operations manager at the clinic. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to chat about your clinic and your recent accreditation against the National Safety and Quality Primary and Community Care Standards, that's a mouthful, isn't it, you achieved, plus being the co-founder of Arnicare, a product that specialises in aftercare for cosmetic procedures, which I know so many of our listeners will already be familiar with. So it'll be great to learn more about that. So let's get into it. What we'll do is we'll get each of you to give us a rundown on your nursing background, how you got into the cosmetic industry, and when you started your business.
Perfect. Well, I guess I'll get going first. So my name's Ash. I'm a nurse practitioner. So I first originally got completed my Masters of Nurse Practitioner back in 2018. So have been an MP for a little while now, which is exciting. But my, history or background in nursing started in orthopedics around 14 or 15 years ago now. And that's, how I got, started as a nurse. And in my grad year, I was really I was liking it, but just knew that type of nursing wasn't for me. And found out nurses could actually administer and do cosmetic injectables. And basically from there had the opportunity to do some hands-on training, with a colleague of mine who's still a colleague of mine now. And basically the rest was history. So I've had my clinic or worked independently for myself for, that 14 years. And back when I started, nurse injectors weren't really a thing. It was really, really hard to get into the industry, and all the big plastic surgeons or all the big clinics, you had to have a minimum of 3 years experience, but no one was willing to give anyone experience. So basically back then, it's crazy to think now. I used to go into literally used to be hair salons or beauty clinics going, hey, I'm a nurse injector. Do you guys want to lease the space? Do you guys want to have an injector here? And everyone thought I was really crazy going what do you mean you're doing Botox? Are you even allowed to do that? Basically the rest was formed from there. I opened my clinic, started in Melbourne, because that was sort of the big demographic of patients having treatments, back then. And then around 11 years ago, I had my clinic where we're from in Geelong. So I opened that about 11 years ago now, which is, the rest is history really.
But I think one thing is you haven't just been doing nursing. There is lots more that you do on the side.
There is. See, Sam's my sister, so she's definitely probably my biggest promoter, because I do struggle, to look at my achievements and things that I've done, whether it is in the industry or other businesses. So obviously we formulated Arnicare, our post-procedural aftercare brand, back in 2020. And I also have another business, which is a bit out there, called Detox Superfood Bar. So part of my clinic, I took over the shop next door. So I had 2 shop fronts. So I also own a acai bowl and smoothie clinic.
I was going to ask you about that, because when I sent the stuff to you guys, I was thinking, there's another business. And then when I was doing my research on you two, I was thinking, are they sisters?
So we are sisters. And so my clinic, I used to just have a 3 treatment room clinic when I first opened, and the shop next door came up for lease, and I needed to expand because our business was growing quite rapidly. And I just knew I didn't need 2 shop fronts. And, back when I was younger going through my nursing degree, I worked in hospitality, and I thought there is no healthy takeaway food options down in Geelong. And I loved acai bowls because I worked my clinic up in Melbourne, had, a place next door. So, brought that idea to Geelong, and that business has been 7 years I've had Detox Superfood Bar as well for. So
that's incredible. Well done.
And then top of that, I guess I'm one of Allergan's advanced nurse trainers as well. So where there's around 20 of us in Australia, that have had the opportunity to work for Allergan doing their advanced, clinical education for the company as well.
That's excellent. What an awesome career you've had.
Quite random. Look, I have done a lot, and when I sort of think about it or put the pen to paper of all the different kind of aspects of my career, it is a little bit out there, but it's good. It's made me who I am today, and I wouldn't change it for a thing.
Yeah, and how good being able to do that alongside your sister.
Exactly right. Look, sometimes
Good
it's going to
and bad,
I was going to say it has its challenges, but
has its
people
moments.
say never go into business with family. However, if you do have a fight, you're quicker just to get over it, because it's like your sister and you just can't get rid of her. So it's kind of good. It definitely has more pros than the negatives for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think my introduction to cosmetic nursing is a lot different to Ash's. My background is more in health service management. So I did postgraduate in critical care nursing, specialising in coronary care, and then went on to do postgrad diploma in health services management. So for the last, 10 years or so, I've been working in more senior leadership positions with Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, and then more recently at Barwon Health. And then just having that young family, it was really challenging trying to manage the demands. It's been the most, I loved working in those roles. That's really comes really well with my personality. But I had my youngest daughter was quite sick at the time, plus trying to juggle Arnicare as well. And it just so happened that Ash was looking for someone to help with that operations side of the business. So it just flowed really nicely. I never had much interest in that beauty or aesthetic side of things. I'm very analytical, very data-driven. Ash is definitely much more artistic, more creative. So for me, when I did the training, it was more just to support any leave in the business. So I thought I may as well learn. And I just didn't realise how much I would enjoy it. And I think having that background in leadership and management and having to have those challenging conversations and be able to develop rapport really quickly with a variety of different people, that did have a crossover in aesthetics, and being able to consult quite confidently, managing expectations and outcomes with patients.
Yeah, that's great.
I think as well, Sam's probably heard me talk about injectables for so many years. You'd hear me on the phone doing consults or talking to my patients. And I think you probably picked up so much of that education and lingo without even realizing. So I was so surprised when I trained Sam up. I was like, oh my God, you're actually really good at this, which is really surprising to both of us. So it's been a really, I guess, great crossover in our minds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you would have trusted me to be let loose on your patients, knowing what I'm like, but thankfully.
And the patients love her because it's just that different outlook. And I think, every patient that comes into the clinic, definitely is driven more to one type of injector or one type of personality. So I think it's a great mix to have those differences, within the clinic as well.
And did you feel like it was almost an easier transition for the patients that you say needed to book with Sam, because you're like, oh, she's my sister, and then there's that almost immediate know, like, and trust factor?
No, 100%, and that's the biggest factor. Some of my patients I've been seeing for nearly 14 years, and if I'm away traveling or things like that, it was always hard because patients would never want to see anyone else. So when I do say, oh, I'll book you in with my sister Sam, they're like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds good. So,
yeah, because they're like, it's going to be pretty much same.
It creates that trust, definitely.
Well, it's a lot more pressure for me because I know if I do something not right, they are going to report.
They feedback. They go, oh, that was different, or she did it differently, or it felt different, or yeah.
But I think Sam. I was going to say, Sam coming into the business, one of the other benefits as well is when I got into business, I never actually wanted to be a business owner. It was just nothing. I never had that kind of ambition to own my own business whatsoever. It was just the only avenue for me to get into the industry back then. So having Sam come on board to our operations and management side, I love it because I'm definitely not a manager. I'm a leader. Don't get me wrong. I love leading a team. I love education. I love being that kind of motivator. But when it comes down to the hard conversations, looking at, the numbers or figures of a business, I really struggle. And that's where it's been great having Sam, come on board and lead that aspect of the business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a great point and such an honest point, because so many of us, when we do our nursing training and our cosmetic training, we're not trained in business skills. But like you said, it's often the only avenue for us to actually be in this industry. And then you sort of fall into it and it's like, oh, hang on a minute. I have a business and I have a team who are relying on me. And yeah, what are these accounting numbers and all of these other things that you've got to think of that we have to learn? And if anything, that's probably the hardest part of running the business.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And Sam thrives in that environment. She's done it at the Alfred. She's led teams of like hundreds of nurses or manage that. And yeah, I'm happy for her to take the reins on that side of things.
So you recently achieved accreditation against the National Safety and Quality Primary and Community Care Standards. Walk us through what this involved and what this means for your clinic.
I'm so glad you're the one that had to say that.
I practiced a few times and then I still felt like it was a tongue twister.
No, you did well. Look, to be honest, when I, obviously my experience being in the larger health services, accreditation's a really big part of any health service. Coming across it was actually ToxBar was the name at the
Back
time.
in the day.
And Ash had a lot of good high-level evidence-based treatments in the clinic. There was a lot of policies and procedures already in place. But once the AHPRA and TGA regulations really tightened, we just chose to lean into that. And I just feel like it really is the natural next step for the industry. I think a lot of, or probably every other clinical environment where practitioners see patients, it is tightly regulated. The places are accredited. So I was just really committed to working with Ash and the team to try and get us accredited. And it was really just about formalizing some of the processes that we already have in place. I think for anyone that is thinking about doing it, it is quite a lengthy process. And I think as small business owners, you are generally very agile. You can make changes and implement new systems and processes really quickly. But one thing to, think about is what quality improvement practices that you are implementing so that you are evaluating all of those new things that you're bringing into the clinic or changes that you are making so that you do have the evidence there of how it improves the experience for the patient or the organisation that you're working with.
And I think that was probably the biggest thing prior to Sam coming on board to the clinic was we did have all these policies, we had all these procedures, we had all these, new things that we had everything for. But what I really lacked due to my time, you're doing clients yourself, you're managing your staff, managing obviously my other businesses. I never actually had that opportunity to then evaluate the effectiveness of, what I was implementing. And that was probably the biggest impact when Sam came in. It's like, okay, we've done all this, but how do we know it's effective? How do you know, hand hygiene's getting performed? How do we, where's the evaluation of all this information? And that's, I think, what the standards, what you really need that information is. That's what they're looking at is, how you're actually, what evidence to support what you're doing is there.
And I think you always think you perform something a certain way, so everyone must do it the same way. But when you actually start implementing, say, audits on documentation, and whether that's aftercare being sent out to patients, for an example, you probably think, oh, I always do that. But then when you look at the figures, there will be patients that do slip through, or maybe there is a nurse within the clinic that only sends it every second time. So it is just about bringing that to the forefront and then implementing your quality improvement activities. And the other thing that it was a big part of it, is actually involving your patients in
that
the
process.
Care. So one thing we did was we have a consumer working group. So we have patients that maybe haven't been to the clinic before or are very new to injectables, and some that are really experienced, and working with them to develop aftercare forms or consent forms so that it is relevant to them and it's in a language that they really understand and relate to.
So for other clinic owners who are listening to this and they're interested in this accreditation, where would they start?
Yeah, so I think jump onto the Australian Commission website that can detail what opportunities there are for accreditation. Because it is voluntary, you can choose what standards that you want to be accredited against, find what is most relevant for the services that you are offering. And also then you can just do a gap analysis or a quick review of what you have in place already and see how achievable it is going to be for you. And then you just go through an accredited auditor to review all the work that you've done. And, there is free guides on their website as well as some sample questions and things that you're going to be assessed against that you can start preparing yourself ahead of time. And at the end of the day, just documenting what you're doing. As I said, being small business owners, you implement changes just like so quickly, which is amazing, and it helps accelerate the business. Just to remember to record all that training that you're doing, all those improvements that you're putting in place.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And do you think you touched on, the TGA and APRA regulation changes that we've been going through for the past few years, where nurses are sort of wanting to push for different things, such as, having a national poisons license, which could really help with these issues that are coming up around the storage and, the supply and the storage of these S4 medications. Do you think things like doing this accreditation could be ways forward for us to really help us have our own standards?
I think I'll cover this one. It's really hard, obviously, in our industry, as everyone knows, that obviously becoming recognised, and that's the thing. There has been, there is a really lack of clarity right across the board in terms of, as you're saying, with the control of the poisons. Even going back in 2018 when I was trying to get my NP, there's no actual specific things for us in the aesthetic industry, and that's what's really sad and disappointing. And all these APRA changes and TGA changes, that I feel that it's still that lack of clarity. I think in regards to, the accreditation, when you sort of look at, each state and how things are changing, I think it's only a matter of time, in your state that's going to become the way forward. The hard thing, say for us when we're going through accreditation, because there isn't something specific for, the aesthetic medical field, that it is hard, don't get me wrong, but I think if you're not doing that or thinking about what's changing or what's happening in the future, you're going to be left behind. And when those rules and things do become mandatory, it's going to be so much harder to catch up to where you need to be, instead of kind of having that at the forefront of your mind and being, I guess, proactive in that sense.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I suppose more to come on this.
Oh, look, 100%. And I think it's only going to be ever changing, and I think until our industry is, recognised as that specialty industry, across the board, I think that's where, things will become, a lot more clearer for practitioners and businesses. But, at the time now where it's not completely recognised, it's why, it is really confusing. But I think if you can hold your practice in your clinics or if you're an independent injector to the highest standard and make sure that becomes part of your, every day, as Sam said, having that evidence, reporting, recording those meetings, showing, having that data of what you're actually doing, you become a far, I guess, safer clinic and a safer injector, and you can provide that evidence if anything was to happen or change.
And I feel like majority of clinic owners would be absolutely behind that if it means that we can have our own recognition as a specialty of nursing in the cosmetic industry.
Yeah, 100%.
Ashleigh, you are a nurse practitioner, as we've talked about, and the co-founder of Arnicare, which, as we mentioned, many nurses will already know of or currently use in their cosmetic clinics. What was the motivation to create this product? What did that process look like? Who's this product for? And where can we learn more about it?
Yeah, of course. So look, Arnicare has been, or I guess the idea of Arnicare had been on my mind for basically from the start of my career, 14 years ago, doing these dermal filler procedures, doing treatments where obviously bruising, is a common risk or a common side effect from injectables, that I would always send my patients down, to the pharmacy, go grab yourself some Arnicare. That's going to help reduce that downtime. And it sort of got to the point, I'm like, why am I sending patients, away? Firstly, you don't know if they are actually going to go, get that Arnicare. If I have bruised patients, are they then going to be coming back to me? And then when Sam, obviously she was, going, I think you're on maternity leave or about to go into maternity leave, that I was like, hey, I've got this idea. I need to get this manufactured. I need to have this in my clinic. And yeah, Sam had more the time, to be able to do the back end, contact manufacturers and get that process happening. It was more so for my clinic at the start. And I thought, if I'm needing this, like every single injector ever is going to need this. And that's sort of where the idea, came from, was, having something that is specifically used for the use in, the field of aesthetic medicine, and more, I guess in particular for the use on the face, which all your traditional Arnica products, anything that's meant for reducing bruising and inflammation, is traditionally for sports injuries, really high menthol. So if you've ever used an Arnica product that's a sports injury for the face, it's so burning, high menthol, not ideal. And basically that's where, the vision was formed from there. I guess moving forward around 6 years of starting Arnicare, seeing the difference that you can make in downtime with those patients, specifically like lip fillers. That was my main one. No one is that great of an injector that they're not going to cause any swelling or edema in the lip. Bruising happens. We know that, as soon as you're piercing that skin with that needle, the chance of bruising, is going to be there. And now having this product where, I'll have patients that, repeat have cosmetic injectables, and they go, oh my God, I've had no downtime, no bruising, a little bit of swelling. And it's, we're finding most patients are more than 50% less downtime using Arnicare, which is unreal, because I guess when you formulate something, we had the idea, we did the formulations back and forth with companies for years and years, getting it completely right and how we want it. And to get that feedback firsthand, of patients coming in, or I'll be in the clinic and, someone will come in off the street and go, oh my God, this is great. And you're kind of like, wow, we have a product that actually works. It's, I think if anyone's developed a product, it's still that, I don't know, it's that part of that imposter syndrome. You're like, can we really have formulated something that is so great? And the evidence is there. So, it's really exciting.
Excellent. How great. And do you do a combination of things? Do you apply it to your patients after they've had a treatment, and do they also go home with the product as well?
Yeah, so look, we are, which is something we'll touch base soon about too, is we do have our TGA listed product called Pro Repair. So that is a product that's literally about to, hit the market really, really soon, which will be the in-clinic product to use immediately post-procedure. And then we have our range for the patients to take home. So the take home, we have, our Arnica balm, we have our Arnica cream for the bigger treatment areas. And we also have our Arnica lip mask as well. So obviously all infused with your Arnica Montana, which is mainly the bruising component. But then we've got all our active ingredients like your hyaluronic acids, your niacinamides, everything we know that's obviously those actives that are going to reduce that inflammation, help with that redness, help, calm the skin, help that hydration. And yeah, the Pro Repair was first formulated because, in my clinic for years, I've been using Bepanthen, which is great, love it. However, obviously there is a gap in patients that may have tree nut allergies, which was a big one. but also like how sticky and shiny patients leave. And, you know, patients would end up saying, oh, can I not have Bepanthen on? I've got to head to work, or it makes me break out. It's too thick and
trying
occlusive.
to like wipe it off.
Yeah,
you've just done
100%.
their lips and then they're looking in the mirror and they're like, oh, I love them, but they're almost starting to wipe it off.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where our Pro Repair product came in, that it's something that the clinicians would apply, you know, immediately post-treatment to, you know, help with that massage, or to help, you know, give
that antisepsis.
Yeah, that antisepsis onto the skin. And then, you know, your patient's got that start to finish care, and that's what's really important, that, you know, no matter, I'm very big on education for patients. You know, my consultations and the education is probably the longest portion of my treatment time. And, you know, providing them something that they, you know, we apply in the clinic and then they take home, you know, they're getting the right care, and you're not leaving it up to them to do the right thing, you know, because more often than not, you see them posting with lipstick on, you know, so if I know I've given them something to take home that, you know, is going to be the correct product and the correct care, then I'm happy.
Yeah, that's great. And for someone who's quite prone to bruising, would you recommend that they use the Arnicare product leading up to their injectables appointment and then for a few days after as well?
Yeah. So look, Arnicare is obviously known, you know, the best absorption of Arnicare I'll talk about is through the skin. So there are Arnicare tablets you can take, but Arnicare montana is actually quite it's a flower. It's quite a poisonous flower. So taking it orally is actually not, I guess, best practice. So definitely applying topically, you're going to support that skin, supporting that barrier, so your patient is then prepped and ready for that procedure. And the way, I guess, it's working, you know, into those superficial layers about calming the skin, reducing that inflammation. So then you're having that treatment, they're definitely going to have a, you know, better outcome, and then immediately post-treatment be applying that, you know, on again, off again, post-treatment. But we find, with ice as well, of course, but we find most of our patients actually use it as their everyday products, whether or not they're even having a procedure. You know, it's that kind of staple product because, you know, it's combating dehydration. We have patients that use it if they get cold sores. We have patients, you know, our creams, so like tattoo creams, you name it, it's quite a broad product that you can use.
Yeah, that's excellent. I was thinking when you were talking about the ingredients, it sounds like something a lot of people would really benefit from on a daily basis as well.
100%, especially the cream. A lot of my patients are like, I just use this as my everyday cream now. And it's, we even have, you know, quite elderly patients recently. We exhibited at the Pharmacy Expo up in Gold Coast, and a pharmacist said she has a patient with really bad bruising, and she ended up, I think, how old is she? 90, I think,
in her 90s.
In her 90s. And they actually got her some samples of our product, and the feedback's amazing. She's been using it every day. So it's not obviously, you know, our background's in aesthetics, but, you know, for someone, you know, 90, noticing a difference is amazing.
Yeah, that's great. And for clinic owners listening and watching, they can stock your products. Is that correct? Yes. And where do they learn more?
Yeah, so you can find out a little bit more about us on our website, which is arnicareoz.com. I think when we set out with developing like a wholesale product, one thing we were really passionate about was making sure that it was achievable for small business owners. I know a lot of brands that you can purchase for wholesale have quite high openings. So we just wanted to make sure that was really achievable and accessible for everybody. So you can get started relatively quickly.
Yeah, that's excellent. And that is such a pain point, especially for, you know, small business or, you know, one person shows as well, which so much of our industry is, and those huge opening orders to get started on, you know, a skincare range or a product or something else that they're introducing can be such a barrier for people.
And I think having that hindsight, like, you know, me when I was an independent injector many years ago, that, you know, it is hard, and you're spending a lot of money, a lot of outlay, obviously, on the products themselves, you know, outlay on your marketing, you know, your whole business outlook. So if we can provide, you know, those really low minimum order quantities, it's great because we know our product works. So, you know, as that injector, you know, grows in their business, obviously the demand for our product's going to grow as well, which we see. So it's great.
Excellent. Now we've touched on your other product. Let's learn a little bit more about that. So it's the first to market TGA listed antiseptic bruise cream.
Yeah, that's right. So as Ash mentioned, we obviously have our retail products, and we wanted to formulate something that was really clinically backed. That was really important to us. So we set out on developing this TGA listed product because we wanted something that clinicians could apply in clinic. We wanted to have really high dose actives, which you can't have in a cosmetic product. So we surprisingly, or probably not surprisingly, getting the TGA listing was really challenging.
Which we knew was going to be challenging, but like the challenge was nowhere near what the challenge we thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah,
And
a lot of hoops to
some
jump
of
through.
that is even small things like trying to find a TGA manufacturer that will take on a small business, especially one where there is no product like it on the market. The category doesn't really exist. So they're starting from scratch. Minimum water quantities, very high. The, I guess, financial input as well is quite high, as well as the regulatory compliance that's required. So again, similar to the accreditation process, you're having to really find all that information out yourself, try and connect the dots, and even just trying to have people get back to you that are working on the product, trying to
even understand what they're talking about, because again, like, you know, this isn't our background. So a lot of the time we're like, oh yeah, yep, definitely, we'll get back to you on that. And then we're like, chat GPT, like, what does this mean? Like, you know, it is a very kind of tedious process. And I'm proud that we were able to achieve and get our way through it, because we faced, you know, Arnicare, Montana, as I said, it's a flower. And one of our biggest problems, and I think it was Arnicare, Montana, say it was like $50 per kilo of the dried flower. It's grown in Ukraine. And then obviously with everything that happened in Ukraine, the Arnicare, Montana flower was no longer. And I think it went up to like $5,000? Yeah, $500 per kilo. So, you know, our prices were escalating. They couldn't even get, you know, the Arnicare, Montana at one point. So we sort of faced a lot of issues, TGA as well, with a recall on sunscreens. So, you know, our TGA, you know, manufacturer is going to be prioritizing these major sunscreen brands to get those formulations correct for them. And, you know, our little old Arnicare, I feel like just kind of, you know, slipped to the bottom. And unless we were hassling people, like you got to hustle. Like we were on the phones, emailing, trying to, you know, get that flow. And if you're kind of not kind of on the ball with that, you know, you could easily go weeks without hearing from people, you know, for sure.
And I think, yeah, if obviously there are other cosmetic nurses or practitioners out there that are looking to start their own brand, it's definitely something that is achievable. I think you just have to be committed to the process and don't start something thinking that it's going to be an overnight success. You're going to have to do your research, and there is a lot of marketing spend required.
Yep.
Even exhibiting at the conferences and things is a much more expensive process than what we would even have thought. So definitely things take probably 10 times longer than what you think, and probably cost
10 times more than you think.
Exactly. It is a labor of love. That's what I always say with the skincare range that I have for the clinic as well. You know, so many days I think, I just want to burst into tears and just, you know, get rid of it and, you know, stock something else. But then, you know, a patient comes in, they're like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever put on my face. I'm like, okay, I'll keep going.
Yes, you realise you're like, okay, what we're doing is right. And I think that's where kind of, you know, working, me and Sam being sisters, is like, 1 week Sam's like, nah, I'm done. Like, it's too much. And I'll be like, well, you know, you never get anywhere in life if we just quit now. Like, so I think having that, like, both of us like have to kind of push each other, you know, to get through it is really helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in this industry, it's, you know, as challenging as it is, like you've spoken about, it is really great to have those things that differentiate you from, you know, your market and your competitors as well. And I'm sure that people will start to sort of recognize, oh yeah, that's the clinic that have got these other products and they've got this accreditation and they've done these other things. So I think it's amazing what you two have done together. And I think you both enjoy challenges as well, is what I'm learning.
100%. You know, I like being creative. That's my outlet. Like I like to like make things happen. I'll dream of things and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Whereas then, you know, for me, it's like once I've reached something, I'm like, all right, what's next? Like, what am I doing next? Whereas Sam's like, she's like, as I said, like the analytical, loves the numbers and growing things. So I think we're kind of weirdly a good combination.
Such a good balance.
We are a good balance. Like I think, you know, that it's handy. And I think with Arnicare, it's definitely been a passion project that's growing into something, you know, massive. And I think when we looked at what we've achieved, you know, since we've started, like we're in 500 plus clinics. We've got clinics over in like the UK, New Zealand, America, you know, which is crazy. So it's exciting.
That's incredible to be global with that now, and even more stressful now learning that when you were not able to even, you know, get your key ingredient as well.
Yes. So it's actually crazy. I feel like the hurdles we've faced, it's like, you know, how do you formulate a product with like what, I think there's 2 places in the world, and yeah, obviously Ukraine was one. I thought, of course we have that one product that's, you know, you can't source anywhere else. So I think we can look back and laugh now. During the time, it definitely, you know, was not ideal, but we've gotten through it and managed to make it work, which is good.
But I reckon, like in general, healthcare practitioners are used to overcoming challenges. You have to be so resilient in whatever area that you're working in. You have to make do with what little you have. And just keep doing it with a smile on your face. And I think that's just healthcare in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And also sums up small business too.
Yeah.
True.
You think everything's smooth sailing, and then, you know, one thing changes with a team member or a product or something, and then, yeah, you have to pivot. Now, with your new product, is that something that will be launched this year? Are you allowed to share that with us?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So it will be definitely in this half of 2026.
Yes. Yeah, we were hoping, like, I guess we always in our mind, we're like, yes, we're going to launch now. And, you know, we were hoping end of last year, but obviously just finalizing a few minute things. And now, yeah, definitely in this half of the year, which is so exciting because it's such a long time coming. Like I've had the opportunity, obviously, to be using it in the clinic for probably really the last 12 months. You know, obviously we've been perfecting the products, but also being able to see the evidence and the efficacy of using it, which is really, really exciting. So I can't wait to share it with everybody because, you know, I'm very picky. When it's your own product, you're so, so picky. And I think if I'm absolutely loving it, I think that means something because I'm probably our worst critic when it comes to that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And having used it in your clinic for 12 months, that just, you know, speaks volumes to what you guys put into a product before you do launch it to market.
100%. I think, you know, with any products on the market, I think if you sort of don't, you know, use it yourself or trial that, you know, you don't find out these like little bits and pieces. And I think, you know, in our industry, I think we're very particular people. Like obviously we work in facial aesthetics, we like things a very certain way, or we have, you know, an outlook of how we perceive things. And I think even just down to like texture, when you put it on, like, is the client looking really hydrated and glowy? Like that were my important factors, you know, obviously having the key ingredients, but more like the look and the feel of it. It was I guess one of my top priorities as well, and how I guess hydrated the patient's leaving when they look and not sticky.
Yeah, not sticky.
Not
Fine
sticky.
to go back to work.
Not sticky.
Okay,
exactly.
well, watch this space. That's super exciting. Thank you so much, Samantha and Ashleigh. That has been such a great chat. So much valuable information for clinic owners out there that are watching and listening.
Thank you so much for having us. And I think if anyone does have any further questions around the accreditation side of things, more than happy to help because obviously there is limited information out there, and feel free to get in touch.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously thanks for taking the time to listen to us.
Great. And I'll pop all of the links to everything that we've spoken about. I'll pop it all in the show notes as well. Thanks, guys.
Amazing.
Perfect.
So
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.